Well, good morning and welcome back. We're on phase 2 of the cushions. I like to use the word phases because that way you feel like you always accomplished something. So phase 1 was complete by doing the bands for the edges of the cushion. So now we're going to do the top and the bottom, phase 2, or the finish. We'll get it finished up today. So enjoy this video. Well, welcome back to phase 2. Remember yesterday I did this part here, the outside band. Measured it and got it all done. It fits on there. So I'm going to do the top next. So I've laid out my material. I went ahead and used a T-square to make sure that that first edge was straight. And then measured off from the factory edge in toward the middle where I had done a cut before. That way I know I got at least 2 really square edges. So if these are off by a 1/16 or an 1/8, it won't matter. So I measured it out. Now you remember on the strips over there, I didn't allow for any seam allowance. So what I'll do on this top piece now, I'm going to add a 1/2 inch for the seam allowance. What that does, that'll keep the cushion exactly the correct distance or length here. But by having the sides short, it will make sure that the top is pulled over just a little bit, because it will force it to go over, because that's exactly 3 inches. And so that'll be done. So we did that. I used a can to mark the curves that matches that. So we're going to cut it out, and then we're just going to sew it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. I will mention one more important thing. You need to make sure on this front edge where you're going to start is you mark the center. So you want to have a center line here, and then on my little strip I did a center line as well. That way you can line these 2 marks up, and then you can start sewing. That way you know you're dead center with your cushion. You don't want to say, oh, I'm going to start at a corner and work my way around. So you can start here and then go in a circle, and hopefully you should be, by the time you go all the way around, one piece. So I've got them inside, both inside out. I got the 2 little white lines lined up. I got my 1/2 inch allowance, and we're going to see what happens here in a minute. Let's set the needle by hand first. And then we're just going to work this around. Nice thing about some umbrella materials, it don't stretch. I'm going to lock it to get started. And then we're going to just take our time. And we'll just slowly keep working this around. And when we get done, I'll let you look at it. So now when you get to the corners, what you have to do is you just have to slowly give it a little kinkle or wrinkle, whatever you want to call it. And you'll just slowly keep working it around. Every time you have just a little bit of a fold until you come all the way around. And now we're straight again. Line it up. If you're off a little bit, just work it in. You don't have to be dead on every time. Just work it back into where it needs to be. Gotta remember, this is a cushion, not a suit. And we'll just keep working it around. We got one more curve to go. I'm starting to come to that corner. So now I'll just work a couple stitches, work it around, and walk it around every time. The question is, how are we going to come out? And we're going to be dead on the money. Gonna have a little, look at that, just a little bit. So what I'll do, I think I'll just fold that little excess, and we'll make a little funny seam right there. Nobody will ever know the difference. A couple back stitches, and that is it, folks. Put that up, and we have worked it. Let me get my scissors. And there you go. And then we'll have one little fancy fold right in the front. I guess I could have probably started in the back, and it wouldn't have made no difference, but we started there. Now we unfold it. Like that. And you just work it. You got a nice seam and a nice curve right there. So it worked out really nice. So we'll put it on the cushion next and test fit it. So here it is put on. So you got the nice seam. Of course, it's not going to be totally on there yet because you got to really pull it down to go. But once it's on, it'll be on nice and tight like that. You will have a nice curve all the way around. So there it is with it on. So not too bad. It's a little loose now because I don't have the bottom on yet, but once the bottom's on, this will pull down nice and tight. Got the seam on the corner. You always get a little pucker on the curves. There's nothing you can do about that. But once we put the bottom on, that'll tighten everything up. Should be real nice. So let's keep moving. Alright, so let me show you what I did for the back. So for the back's a little tricky because you're going to have a center where you're going to have two flaps going over the top of each other. So what I did is I want to add 3 inches because I want to do a double hem. So you're going to roll this edge. Let me show you. You're going to roll this edge back twice so you have a nice finished edge. So I needed to add 3 inches per each side because we're going to cut it in the middle. So I went from the square edge, went over, added 6 inches to each side. 6 inch up there, 6 inches down here. Marked the middle. Went back 3 inches each way. That way when I roll these and roll these, I'll have that so it overlaps by 1 inch. So you'll have a half a flap, and then this half flap will hang over this flap. Then you can put Velcro to hold them together if you want. But if you don't add the 3 inches, you're not going to have a nice rolled seam. So I like a nice rolled seam. It just gives it a little strength on this rubber material that we're using. And you can just cut this with the scissors. So we're going to go ahead and cut this, and then we're going to start sewing one. So this is going to be hard to read, but what I have now is 2 pieces cut. I have the right side and the left side. And this is the way they go. They're going to go up like that on the cushion. So I went L, left side in, right side in. And so I have my 3 extra inches. So this is going to get rolled over twice to make a nice hem. So it still will be 1 inch long, and then we'll roll this one the same way. That way we end up with a double hem that will overlap each other like that with Velcro. So let's do a little sewing. So here you have double rolled the hem over, and so now we're going to stitch it. And this is all by eye up to the blue line. I did draw a blue line, so I know it'd be right on that blue line. Like that. I'm going to lock it. I'm going to lift it up. Get my scissors. I know I should have the scissors with me, but I didn't. So we got 1 stitch, and then we'll do a 2nd stitch to get the second back half of that of our seam. And having the needle up out of the way always helps. And our needle's in the center. So we're going to go down by hand. Lock it, and then away we go. And that's it. So now we've got the back panel. Back panel is done with a nice flap on it. And we'll put Velcro, and then the 2 layers will lock over each other. You slide your pillow in, cushion in first. So that's the start. There's one side. So I just give you a shot. So here's one panel with it all done. The double based rolled seam that you're not going to see, and this is the other one. So what happens if this is underneath, your cushion will slide through, and then that will Velcro over, and that will close. Terrible video probably, but that'll Velcro over, and that will close the bottom of it up, and then this will be your whole back panel. So here we are, we got the 2 back panels sewed on now. Let the flap like that. So we're going to put the cushion in. That'll take a few minutes to cram that in there, and then I'll get back with you and we'll see how it looks. Well, you remember what we started with. It's a cushion that looked like this. Well, there's what we ended up with. That's my new cushion. One side. Gotta let it set it out in the heat, let the wrinkles get out of it. So remember we did our sides. And there's our back panel And that's that non-skid rubber stuff. So I'm not a professional, that's for sure. But hey, for a Catalina 22 first cushion, I'll go with that. By the time that sits in there a week or so, nobody will ever know the difference. Making you dizzy, aren't I? There's one cushion done. Well, here's your before after. So that's what the cushion looked like. And there's our new cushion. So it turned out pretty nice. Got our side panels, everything on there. And that's the back panel with the non-skid, that rubber stuff. And so when you set it down and you're sitting on that cushion, it's going to feel pretty good. So I don't think I would change anything. I like the way I did the 1/2 inch reveal and everything as far as seam allowance. You got nice corners. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to do. There is always going to be a little pucker on the corner, at least for me. I mean, the next one may be better. I mean, that one's pretty nice. Nice corner on the top. But hey, it's going to work. Probably never get sit on, but it's done. So when I sell the boat, somebody will have a nice cushion. So there's the old cushions. And come around and look at here. There's the new cushion. It's pretty nice. Looks good, huh? So we got to do the back next, and then we'll do those two, and then we're going to put some epoxy on the table. We're going to make it look like marble, I think. Just kind of fancy it up, but there's one cushion done. So I'm going to follow the same procedure for all of them. Nice and cushy cushion. So you're asking, what will you need to sew a cushion? Here's a list of what you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a sewing machine. This just happens to be the Sailrite sewing machine. It does the zigzag, the LS1. So it does zigzag and straight in two different, it's adjustable as far as the lengths of the zigzag and the straight stitch. Works good for me. I've used it for quite a few other projects. This is the first one that I filmed for you with the Catalina 22. A few other things you're probably going to want to have is a Sailrite, is the edge hot knife. You need to have that. You're going to have a pair of scissors, a flexible measuring tape, some grease pencil, and of course some sunbrella material, as well as the backing. I use sunbrella just because I used some stuff from the fabric store. It lasted about 6 months on my other sailboat. So I went with sunbrella. Only have to do it once. 1 hour to do the cushion. Not bad. We look forward to the next ones. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me make a cushion. I've had several other projects. I've made a bimini top for 127. I've made the bimini top windshield for an Endeavor 32 for a customer of mine. And so we've been practicing. You might have noticed my sewing table. It's super high. It's not a normal sit-down table. And I did that because I used to have it on a normal table and it was too low and you were bent over and hunched over all the time. So I did that, just kitchen countertops and kitchen counter for the height. And it works really good. You can stand up. You can muscle everything around very nice. So I think you might enjoy that. So let's make some more cushions. We'll give you a shot of it when it's all done.